session is called Content to Commerce, Intersection of Great Content and Great Advertising. The speaker is Mr. Doug Scott. He is president of OgilvyEntertainment. A little bit about Mr. Scott. He has over 20 years of integrated marketing experience. He has created groundbreaking branded content programs and landmark collaborations for the world's leading brands, including DuPont, IBM, Hellmann's, also American Express, Nestle, Philips, and many others. He is a member of the Ogilvy and Mather Worldwide Creative Council and has been recognized by Adweek as one of the top 50 most influential executives in the media and entertainment industry. He is also the executive producer of the documentary film Escape Fire, The Fight to Rescue American Healthcare, which premiered at the 2012 Sundance Film Festival and aired on CNN in 2013. I am pleased to introduce to the stage the certifiably influential Mr. Doug Scott from OgilvyEntertainment.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, first off, I'd like to thank Jasper and the branded team for inviting me to Singapore. Singapore happens to be one of my favorite cities in the world. The architecture, the people, the real thought leadership that's going on, and it's with great pleasure I bring to you a new presentation entitled Building Story Worlds. There's a lot of discussion about content. You've heard from our friends at Maker this morning. I found Samsung's view on the middle being squeezed very interesting. I won't spend my time here debating that. I don't necessarily know that there is a squeeze, but we will get into the oversupply of content and really what's happening out there in the world that's converging across this entire ecosystem. Just first and foremost, I have to say that in terms of the thought that this is the year of content, it is not the year of content. Content dates back to the early days of man, and we'll talk a little bit about that. I think that content has become a overused term, a term that every publisher, every broadcaster, every creator, device manufacturer is using, and hopefully by the end of my presentation we'll have a finer point on what we believe to be this emergence of what I like to call narrative. Starting from David Ogilvy's point of view, David believed that you should tell the truth but make the truth fascinating, and I think that that's really at the core of good story, right? We want to make things fascinating. We want to engage people. Right? And what Samsung was talking about earlier is this fascination through entertainment. It may be educational, it may take you to another world, but it needs to be fascinating. At a glance, real quickly, as you heard, we are the branded content division of Ogilvy and Mather, a $2 billion plus global agency with over 20,000 people worldwide. We work with large Fortune 50 brands from IBM to American Express, Unilever, and others. And really what we're doing is we're crafting these stories for brands to tell them across the entire media system. And in this realm of infinite possibility, story is king, right? Stories, again, whether they were drawn on a wall, whether they were told around a campfire, through a radio, on TV, right? We are always going to be interested in stories. But this idea that stories are king alone, I think, is what's being fragmented. There's not enough to just tell a story. What you really need to build is what we're calling a story world, okay? And as you heard earlier, the world that we live in, where we're always on, where we're always in touch, where we were on an ongoing journey, right? It is incumbent on storytellers, on the craftsmen and women that are out there creating these worlds to be able to push them across all the different media that we touch throughout the day. So what we've done is we've developed a framework. We're currently calling it C4. I'm going to walk you quickly through it. And this idea is that everything begins with an insight, right? What we want to do is we want to identify really this thought of what is culture moving towards. And that insight is then going to define our strategy across culture. I find this conference extremely interesting in that it is touching on all things that matter in culture: sports, music, film. I am sure at some point we will see the team establish fashion matters, right? Food matters. And all of these different touch points become the basis for then content, which we then go out and produce. Content drives conversation. If you see a great movie, you tell someone about it, right? If you watch a great artist perform, I'm sure several of you just tweeted out the artist that was up here before me, right? And those conversations beget more content. And back and forth, you get the story cycle. And people start to link into that, and that's this idea of, obviously, the social framework or the social networks that are out there, all of which then drives commerce. A lot of people ask me, well, how do you measure successful content? Again, stories. And my belief is that we measure that through commerce. In the case of a business-to-business client, it's about a qualified lead. In the case of a consumer packaged good, it's about driving sales. And we'll talk a little bit about each of these areas as we go through this presentation. Lastly, all of this drives data, and the data fuels more insights, right? I don't necessarily believe in big data. There's data around us right now. As I speak, there is data going out and data that is coming back, okay? And we'll talk a little bit about the difference between big data and smart data. And I think what we as an industry need to be thinking about is smart data and how to use that to drive my business. So a little bit on culture. Culture is the product of shared narratives. Our Vice Chairman, Rory Sutherland, out of London, talks a lot about this. He's a behavioral economist. He's really looking at the neuroscience related to marketing, right? And we believe that culture that we create, culture that we borrow, okay, culture that is, again, amongst our backgrounds and the diverse world of 7 billion people is a product of shared narratives. And the more that we share that, the greater the conversation is created. A lot of people are talking about content. Content is king. It's about the audience. You heard from Samsung earlier. The audience matters. The audience is in control. And really, they're hyper-connected, right? They choose what content to engage with, where they're going to pay that attention, and place their trust. And we're seeing more and more peer trust being built out there, right? They're going to determine when brand messaging is relevant. It's not enough to just push a message to an individual in the morning, the afternoon, or the evening on a device. It's about relevance. It's about time of day. It's about when that information is needed to drive utility. Utility is value. Curation is nice, okay? Discovery is even better, but utility and value from a brand's perspective is what consumers are looking for, which is why you have what you heard earlier called freemium, okay? But consumers are willing to pay if you're giving them value. Lastly, consumers are going to determine how deeply they engage with something. And it's not so much about me telling you how deeply I want to engage, but you giving me the opportunity to go deeper in a story. Rather than width, it's about depth. Not all of us have same interests in the same content. But the more you give me at the right time through the right device, the more I will engage with, right? How many of you basically get an alert, and what do? You tap, swipe, and consume. And if that alert is relevant, you want more information. Well, that's the attention economy that we're dealing with right now. Screen proliferation, you heard from Samsung earlier. Little stat, 90% of media is done on screens, totaling over 4 hours spent daily across phones, tablets, TVs, and laptops. And it's just going to increase. We spend more time with our screen than we do with our family. It is by our bed. It is with us on planes. It is with us in cars and subways. But everyone calls that tablet, that smartphone, which I argue is not a smartphone, but a phone that gives me more access, because it is yet to move an app that I use more from the third screen to the first. It is yet to welcome me to a city when I land. Welcome to Singapore. It has all that information. The GPS is there. It is not smart as of yet, but everyone calls that the second screen. It is not second. It is first. It is first person. The screen in the living room, that beautiful Samsung Smart TV, which again is not smart, is a shared screen. We share that experience together, and then we go deeper on our first screen. And the more we look at that screen from a first-person standpoint, the greater the conversation, the dialogue, which you heard earlier, and the data that comes off of that goes into the economics of this business, which is driven by the almighty advertiser. Shifting behavior. Twitter, real-time reflexes. I see something, I tweet it. I like something, I tweet it, right? It's reflexes. That's what it is. It's at a snap. We have a fear of missing out. We need to be included. Facebook is our social DNA. It's our friends that we never knew were friends that say they're friends. People that I haven't seen in 15 years wanting to be my friend. Does that mean I converse with them? I really have nothing to say with them, which is why I haven't spoken to them in 15 years. Yet, it's part of my fabric at this point in life. Kickstarter. Kickstarter is about meaning makers. They make the world change. It is funding through crowdsourcing. Extremely powerful in changing the things. We're creating things we need. Visual optimizers and emoticons. YouTube has become instant celebrity. Andy Warhol once said everyone would be famous for 15 minutes. I think personally today what he would say is fame is so 15 minutes ago. It's not about that anymore, right? And lastly, transparency and trust. And I have our client Dove up there, which we'll talk about in a second. But brands are looking to be transparent and to build trust. And all of that shifts the consumer behavior into a world that is driven to where we have the opportunity to provoke culture, to be creators, and to really shift people's opinions. So I have an example here. A lot of people, I'm sure, have seen Red Bull's work. I think Red Bull has emerged from beverage company to media company, and I find it very fascinating that on the heels of GoPro about to go public, they too have come out and said that they are a media company, not a manufacturer of a capture device. So it is about the media. It is about the story. And Red Bull Media House has recently launched a channel, which Apple TV is carrying. They sell over $50 million a year in content to other distributors. And as I'm sure everyone saw, because you couldn't have missed it, right? They had a gentleman jump from space. Probably the most viewed piece of content or story on YouTube and carried globally. Now, I have a little select piece here, which was recently released by Red Bull and one of their partners, which has had over 15 million views and is climbing significantly. I'd like to share this with you because I find what's fascinating is the creation of this content off of this event that was released after the fact.
Felix, disconnect the oxygen hose.
Roger. Okay, Joe, I'm ready.
There it is. There's the world out there. Release seatbelt. All right, stand up on the exterior step. Keep your head down, and our guardian angel will take care of you.
I'm doing it now.
Release the helmet tie-down strap.
Release the tree. What I can see. Sometimes Yeah, that's really high. How small you are. I'm going home now.
So needless to say, all shot with GoPros. Fascinating. The world was focused when that first came out on the drop. But to me, the camera mounts and the feeling of Felix stating, sometimes you have to be so high to understand how small you are, right? I mean, it drives the story. This was released months after that main piece. Again, depth of content relative to story world. Brand values deeply embedded in culture become narrative material. We talk about these things. We want to be part of them. Okay? It's an inclusion society. And the world, as large as it is, as Felix just showed you, their horizon with 7 billion people, is so small today. It is all coming together, okay, where we are one world, one people, all seeking stories about our past and about the future. Content. Our good friend, I'm sure many of you have binge-viewed House of Cards, right? I don't know how familiar you are with the speech that he gave at Edinburgh at the TV festival. He said it's all content, it's just story. Well, what we did is we took the liberty to mash that up a little bit. I'm going to share it with you. I actually got a nice email from him thanking me for taking the more salient points of his 42-minute speech off of YouTube and crushing it into something that kind of spoke about what is happening out there in content. And here it is, we'll share it with you.
Salaries increase. People have reputations and track records to protect. And the end result is a shift toward conservatism, away from risk-taking. And if there's one thing that overlaps between business and art, it's that in the long run, the risk-takers are rewarded. It's all content. It's just story. The risk-takers are rewarded. The audience has spoken. They want stories, and they will talk about it. They're dying for them. And they will talk about it. Facebook blog, tweet, Facebook blog. And they will talk about it. Facebook blog, make fan pages, silly gifs. You must observe, surprise, adapt, break boundaries, discover appetites, and take viewers to new places. Complex, smart stories available whenever they want, whatever device they want, wherever they want. Complex, smart stories wherever they want. Prize fruit, juicier, shinier than it's ever been before. Right there. Prize fruit. Seize it. Reach out. All the more shame on each and every one of us if we don't reach out and seize it. The risk takers are rewarded. It's all content. It's just story. The risk takers are rewarded. The risk takers are rewarded. It's all content. It's just story. The risk takers are rewarded.
So it's all content. It's just story, right? And when you think about that relative to the middle, as Samsung spoke about earlier, right? We're going to continue to create stories. People are going to seek those stories out. I believe we're going to live in a world where there's an iGuide. Sorry, Samsung, referring to the iTunes of content, right? But it's not about curation. It's about what I want when I want it through my device. The channel fabric, the framework that we know, that will all break down, and stories will continue to be created. Every brand is capable of eliciting human emotion and triggering behavior, and it's that story that triggers that behavior. A lot of people talk about this word storytelling. I believe that story and telling are two entirely different words. The story is constant, as I said earlier. We will tell them forever. Telling is variable. I once told stories on a radio where 4 people sat around in a home and they listened. Then there was 1 TV for every 4 people. Is a television really a television, or is it just a screen that we're all sharing? And in the average home today, There are 12 screens per 4 people. So as we shift, there will be the next device and the next device that we tell these stories on, that we deliver them. Some linear, some nonlinear, some passive, some active. But the telling will continue to change. Basic components of plot for story, I won't go through each of them, but every story has one of these 7 key factors that make it engaging. Whether it's a rag to riches story, the quest, voyage and return, comedy, tragedy, rebirth. I can take you through Star Wars and the Bible. They're both stories. They both have the same plot structure. Game of Thrones, the same. Stories are timeless. We will tell them over and over and over again with new characters. Telling is all about disruptive innovation, and it's unlocking new tools, the latest of which is Oculus Rift. Multi-billion-dollar sale to Facebook. Why? Because it's the next form of storytelling. Immersion, getting inside the head relative to the reality and the aspect of that. There's cognitive companions that Qualcomm is working on, and of course the sharing economy out there, Uber and Airbnb, and you are damn straight that Airbnb is going to start to tell stories around the experiences that are people having at their members' homes. So you have this shift that's taking place from disposable to distributable, from appointment to always on, from rented to owned. I believe brands should own entertainment. They should own that conversation. They should not borrow equity. We're moving from individual to irrelevant, and from storyline, as I said earlier, to story world. It's an ecosystem that continues to grow, and people are shifting places. Right? Samsung is in the content business now. They were once a device manufacturer. But all of us need to come together. I don't believe Samsung is going to be representing talent anytime soon. I'm sure they're working with the big talent agencies. They're working with the media companies in terms of distribution deals, right? The film studios, et cetera. And these bubbles continue to grow and contract accordingly. Most recently, I'm sure you've read, 20th Century Fox looking to consolidate 3 of the major production companies into one mass TV production company. It is all evolving. Here's a little example of a project we did for DuPont in partnership with the BBC. It's going into its 4th season. DuPont owns a piece of this series. It was developed specifically for them. It is the 2nd most viewed series on BBC World News, and it composes a series of half-hour episodes that is informed specifically by DuPont's position around safety and protection, food, and energy.
In 2011, the Earth's population swelled to 7 billion, and our beautiful, complicated world began to show signs of strain. At DuPont, we focused our businesses on the big questions everyone was asking. How will we feed all of these hungry mouths? How will we reduce our reliance on fossil fuels? How will we protect people and our environment? We established a global collaboratory and invited the world to help us find some answers by using entertainment to start a conversation. The result was the Horizons Project. To begin the conversation, we created a TV show about companies that are tackling these big challenges. 2 seasons of 40 half-hour episodes are being broadcast to a global audience of 450 million households via BBC World News and through syndication deals with Bloomberg and a host of airlines.
Hello, I'm Adam Shaw, and I'm on a journey right across the world, meeting the people and companies, finding the major business solutions to the challenges facing us all over the next 10 years. The UN believes that by the year 2020, the global population will have increased by 10%. In this program, we'll be meeting the people who have found solutions to those problems. Welcome to Hong Kong.
The TV show is supported by over 26 short documentary films that showcase real-world collaborations with cinematic style. These 2-minute case studies appear in the commercial time at the heart of every show and also live online, where they have garnered 2.5 million views in under 5 months.
Cuando yo me levanto digo así, mi marido te parece, está haciendo, está frío. Estaba en el hospital, me lo volvieron a internar, me dijeron que era bronconeumonía. Yo pensé que se iba a morir, pero me muy mal.
En paneles de polímeros ayuda a aislar y tener una resistencia mecánica más fuerte.
Nunca pensé que voy a alcanzar así. Nunca.
DuPont and the BBC have also held 4 international summits designed to help key decision makers address big challenges around food, protection, and energy. The Whole Horizons project relies on a digital strategy to keep the conversation flowing. A comprehensive website, live web chats, Facebook and Twitter allow for a flood of feedback. And the rest of the world's media has already begun to join in, with over 250 media mentions so far, as well as industry coverage and popular endorsement.
DuPont is a business that's constantly reinventing itself, and that's why DuPont is buy, 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 buy.
To put this in perspective, in the time it's taken to watch this film, the Horizons Project would have reached almost 2,000 people. That's 770 people a minute, proving there's genuine human interest in tackling the challenges that face us all in the decades to come.
Stories that matter, right? There's a B2B brand, not consumer facing, but has a story to tell. And they went out there, and although the quantity of people that you're seeing from some of these YouTube channels that Maker is out there pushing is not there. It's the quality that matters to a brand like DuPont. Conversation, social is behavior, it's not a medium. Everybody talks about social as a channel. It's a behavior. We are social by nature. We are human. We use these channels to have conversations. Stories are social currency. The more people talk, the greater value that we create around those stories, the greater awareness we create for our brand. These connections are interpreted by the brain like in-person connections, right? The brain receives just like they would in a conversation, and then they respond. And emotions are contagious. I believe that it's about big emotion. It's tapping into somebody emotionally, making them laugh, making them cry, making them scared. That's what stories are designed to do. And the more emotion that we create, the more that people are going to spread that story. Here's an example of a project that we did, Dove Sketches. You may be familiar with Dove and the Real Beauty campaign. This taps into a narrative that is driven by Dove, and it's a belief for the brand. It took 8 years for them to come up with a follow-up to Dove Evolution, which was the first film that was done. And again, went viral with over 170 million views to date, garnering several $100 million in earned media, as we like to call that. But most importantly, it sits at the center of what Dove stands for, which is more than the product itself. And it's having that ideal, that approach that elevates the brand and thus the value of the product.
I'm a forensic artist. Worked for the San Jose Police Department from 1995 to 2011.
I showed up to a place I'd never been, and there was a guy with a drafting board.
We couldn't see them, they couldn't see us.
Tell me about your hair.
I didn't know what he was doing, but then I could tell after several questions that he was drawing me.
Tell me about your chin.
It kind of protrudes a little bit, especially when I smile.
Your jaw.
My mom told me I had a big jaw.
What would be your most prominent feature?
Kind of have a fat, rounder face.
The older I've gotten, the more freckles I've gotten.
I would say I have a pretty big forehead.
Once I get a sketch, I say thank you very much, and then they leave. I don't see them.
All I had been told before the sketch was to get friendly with this other woman, Chloe.
Today I'm going to ask you some questions about a person you met earlier, and I'm going to ask you some general questions about their face.
She was thin, so you could see her cheekbones. And her chin, it was a nice, thin chin.
She had nice eyes. They lit up when she spoke.
Cute nose.
She had blue eyes, very nice blue eyes.
So here we are. This is the sketch that you helped me create, and that's a sketch that somebody described of you.
So yeah, that's...
She looks closed off and fatter, sadder too. The second one looks more open, friendly, and happy.
I should be more grateful of my natural beauty. It impacts the choices and the friends that we make, the jobs we apply for, how we treat our children. It impacts everything. It couldn't be more critical to your happiness.
Do you think you're more beautiful than you say?
Yeah. Yeah.
We spend a lot of time as women analyzing and trying to fix the things that aren't quite right. And we should spend more time appreciating the things that we do like.
Content that matters. An insight drove the platform Real Beauty. Real Beauty defined the stories which made up a narrative, and 8 years later, whether it be plays, films, groups for young girls around self-esteem, the brand is going beyond its core product and giving back to society what it feels it should be projecting relative to what it stands for. Content, stories that matter. Real quickly here, I'm going to take you through commerce. Commerce, we sell or else. David Ogilvy said 50 years ago, started the agency over 60 years ago, we sell or else. It all comes down to sales. We're all salespeople. That's what we do for a living. We sell ourselves, we sell our clients, we sell our services, right? That's how we measure these programs. We have a theory that we're calling triggernomics. It's the science of how stories drive human behavior, habits, and consumption. How do I trigger somebody to like something, to take action around it? You're in a supermarket, you're getting ready to prepare dinner for your kids that evening because you're rushing from ballet to soccer, work, and I trigger you with a recipe that I push to you because I know that you're there. I've plotted you, okay? And I offer you something that's going to help you through your day, providing you with that utility or that value. How do we trigger these actions throughout? Here's a perfect example of that, the Lego movie. I hope you've all seen it because it's not just for children. And what happened for me in this film is it triggered my son after seeing the film to want to go home and play Lego. We got home, we dumped out all the Legos, which I had neatly organized per the father in the movie. And sure enough, my son looks across and says, Dad, I don't have Batman. Dad, I don't have the little horse. So what happened? We went out to the toy store and I spent a couple $100 on more Legos. Right? It drives commerce. And for children, storytelling drives role-playing. And it's a key insight that we really have to understand is how, like a child, does story drive an individual to take action? Real quickly, and then we'll wrap up off of this since I'm getting the bright sign that says, please wrap up.
Good morning, apartment. Ready to start the day. Jumping jacks, hit them. 1, 2, 3. I am so pumped up. Yes, overpriced coffee.
That's $37.
Awesome.
Everything is awesome.
Oh my gosh, I love this song.
It's cool when you're part of the team. Everything is awesome.
No, guys, wait up. Where am I?
Come with me if you want to not die.
What is happening?
You're the special, and the prophecy states that you're the most important person in the universe. That's you, right?
Yes. That's me.
Relax, everybody. I'm here.
Batman? Awesome!
Who are you here to see? I'm here to see your butt.
Oh my gosh.
Ow. Wham. First try.
My fellow master builders.
Hello.
Lord Business plans to end the world as we know it. There is yet one hope. The special has arisen.
I know what you're thinking. He is the least qualified person to lead us. And you are right.
A house divided against itself would be better than this.
Abraham Lincoln! I'm not the special. I'm just a regular, normal guy.
You have the ability to be the special because I believe in you.
Robots, destroy him!
I
We'll wing it. It's a bad pun.
Take him to the melding chamber.
Isn't there supposed to also be a good cop?
Hi, buddy. Would you like a glass of water?
Yeah, actually.
Too bad. We are entering your mind.
What?
I don't think he's ever had an original thought.
That's not true. Introducing the double-decker couch. So everyone could watch TV together and be buddies.
That is literally the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Let me handle this. That idea is just the worst.
Over 500 million global box office. They've greenlit a second film. It's driven their quarterly earnings beyond anything that anyone's ever imagined. Now, again, consumers, in my view, have become conditioned. We're like Pavlov's dogs. We're trained with these behavioral triggers. Push the alert, swipe, tap, consume. Dog hears the bell, he salivates and he eats. What's the difference between consumption of content and consumption of food? We're triggering ourselves with the swipe that's so been designed into our behavior, which is good as long as we take advantage of that in terms of how we tell our stories and how we work with consumers to understand what our message is as an advertiser. As long as we drive that, right, we will continue to tap into the emotional psyche. I talked earlier, smart data. It's critical for us to mine this information, understand usage and interests, and provide greater utility. So lastly, in conclusion, we cannot predict the future, but it's our job to create it. And I truly believe that brands that create the best story worlds, as you saw there with Lego and Dove and Red Bull, will win. Thank you very much.